Hi, Michelle. Welcome to the Crush the Rush podcast. I'm so excited to dig into today's topic.
Yes, happy to be here. Happy to pour into you and your audience. And it's a beautiful day to do so.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm being honest, it's like dreary and disgusting here in Ohio. So we're going to pretend it's like magical and beautiful. And we're going to like talk about some spicy things. But before we get into that, I would love to know, what does building a life first business mean to you right now?
So right now, being in my mid 40s, what I'm focused on now is the magic word of balance. It's a little tit for tat. So for me, I have now discovered over a decade or more of personal development, just really what drives my energy and what I have as non-negotiables every day that is going to really fill my cup so that I can be of service to others. And that is really how I am integrating life and business, and then also being able to pay that forward to my clients.
Yeah, I love that. Give us a sneak peek as to what a non-negotiable is currently.
Currently, it is movement. So for me, it is working out 5 times a week. And it really depends on what my energy is. I'm not real dogmatic about the type of movement, that sort of thing. But I am fully aware of building muscle, because as we grow older, we lose that. So my goal is strength. And I am focused on working out. So that's lifting heavy, going to the gym. I try and do that full body 3 times a week. And then another non-negotiable that really helps me self-regulate and kind of gets my creative juices going is being out in nature. So then I do at least twice a week where I'm either doing a short run, walk, just being out in nature. And I'm lucky to have nature kind of at my doorstep, and I can walk to the trails and just really be in nature. And nature for me is greenery. So being around greenery, maybe there's a stream, that sort of thing. So I really enjoy that. And it really brings me a lot of peace and clarity. And so both of those things are how I energetically have a must for me throughout the week. And those kind of shift depending on my cycle or whatever else is going on. But I know that I need to move my body at least every 2 days in some way, shape, or form to just kind of move that energy through. And then it just helps me be creative and innovative in what I do and bring to my clients.
Yeah, I love that. I love that it's like a boundary, but it's not strict, right? Like there's some rules, but like the rules can be flexible, which I think probably work the best. I want to dig into our topic today, and that is talking about hitting a certain goal in your business, specifically 6 figures. And I mean, you could say 7 figures too, but I feel like we see this number thrown around a lot of when you hit 6 figures, or imagine hitting 6 figures. And I think that this is a goal for a reason. But one of the things that you talk about is this like success hangover. And it's like when you get to this certain point, it's like, well, it's not really how I felt, or maybe I need to do something different. Can you take us back and like give us a little insight into what this means?
So for me, as I'm sure you're aware of and your audience is aware of, a lot of people throw that around. 6-figure this, 6-figure that, 6-figure launch, 7-figure. There's a lot of that. But what does it actually mean? And how does it actually integrate into what you're doing for your business and your life? So for me, I never really put figures to it that way. But when I did reach those milestones, I actually when I hit 6 figures, it was quote unquote easy for me in my first business. So I was like, okay, what's the big deal? But then I also was able to help my employees reach 6 figures in a short period of time as well. And that I noticed for them was a big, big goal. And then when they got there, they didn't really know what to do with it. And for me, that hit when I hit 7 figures in business. So just slightly different. But if you are not, so for me, success hangover means literally that I didn't know that I could accomplish building a business from 0 to 7 figures. That wasn't even a goal of mine. I didn't even know it was a capacity of mine. So then when I actually got there, I was like, oh, I'm here. I don't know if I want to be here or where I'm going from here. Like, I felt very disconnected from achieving this milestone. And I actually would say it to others, to other fellow entrepreneurs. And they were like, wow, that's amazing. You're top 1% in your niche and you're this and you're that. And it just never really hit home to me. I was just like, oh, okay, I guess I'm going to borrow that excitement from you, but I don't feel that way inside because knowing later, hindsight is 2020, which is I was not strategic or even aligned with what that goal looked like.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got there, I didn't know how I got there. So you're left feeling a little bit empty and misaligned and frankly confused. All of it in a good way. Those don't necessarily have to be negative emotions, but then you're left with, okay, now what? And that's where that kind of like, oh, I hit it, but now what? Am I going to sustain this? How did I even get here in order to be able to keep it, to grow it and beyond?
Yeah. I think for me, the last thing that you said is really what resonated. Like, I feel like I've like forgot to celebrate and I sort of had to like pull the joy from other people, which was great. But then I think I immediately went into, oh my gosh, how am I going to keep this up? Or like, what does the next step look like? So when you are like, whether it's 6 figures or whatever your like milestone is, like what is your advice of like how to break through from that?
So when you get to that level, you really do need to have a self-awareness and a perspective that what got you there will not get you to the next step.
Mm-hmm.
And also what got you there may not be what you need to sustain it, to be consistent year after year, month after month, that sort of thing. So you really do need to have a self-awareness of what it actually took to get you there. So that's what lives in your data. Really having that snapshot of the health of your business and what habits and actual logistics got you there. You really do need to understand that and drop into it, because at that stage, you now need to go deeper, not wider. You really do need to go down. And that's a mistake that I see with a lot of entrepreneurs who have reached a measure of success is they still go so wide. And then they're just launching this and they're launching that, or they're relaunching this, they're doing that. And at that point, you do need to start really getting granular and strategic with what you're doing and really dissecting what made it work. And is this sustainable? Is this something you want to move forward? Because you want to be checking in with yourself very frequently so that you can determine, is this still aligned with my season of life, with my current goals? As women, we have a lot of different things. The way that I built my first business in my mid-30s is not the same as I'm building my business now in my mid-40s. And you just have to know that. And that's okay. And not seeking a lot of that external validation for what ultimately you need to decide is aligned with you.
Yeah, I want to get into metrics for a minute because you've mentioned data a couple of times, and I know that's like one of your big areas of expertise. What are some like key metrics that you would look at in terms of maybe making decisions or help you understand sort of where you're at and where you want to go?
So this is great. This is like the top question that I get with all of my guest appearances on podcasts is where do you start? What does that look like? And I actually do free trainings on this monthly on just some 5 key areas that will give you the snapshot of the health of your business. So first, I want to do it twofold. So one, if you're just starting out, you want to focus on your cost of goods or your cost of services sold, or COGS.
Yes.
And that is different than like a customer acquisition cost. So understanding what that difference is, because your cost of goods is basically everything it takes to operate as a business. And you are a business, even if you're a solopreneur. So what does it take, not just to get that client, but then also how to serve that client, how to have your business actually set up. So you really do need to get dollars and cents. I don't want you to ballpark it. I want you to intelligently know to the decimal point where your company lives, because what you focus on expands. So that's number one for someone just starting out. Another best practice is getting everything in one kind of dashboard, one kind of spot, so that you can really start to see patterns in your data and in your numbers, so that you are moving strategically and intelligently in the direction that you want. And then also a few other ones. Yes, you need to know your customer acquisition cost, your lifetime value of that. And these are all, I don't have a business background. I didn't graduate high school, but yet I was able to understand numbers and data in a way that I can distill it to a visionary, to a creative mind, and actually make it work for them. So don't get too hung up on like the titles of them or like the CAC and the COGS and things like that. It is just tracking all of the ins and outs of your business. And then if you've got multiple offers, you want to know exactly what each of those offers are doing. But start first with just everything on a piece of paper or doc or whatever that looks like for your cost of goods. And then also your revenue coming in. So you can start noticing what those trends are.
Yeah, I'm curious. Do you look at this weekly? Do you look at this monthly? Like, what's the routine of checking this look like?
So it varies according to the level of business. But when you are starting out, I firmly believe that you should be looking at this weekly. So that you can really start to develop a habit of what to look for when things are shifting for good or for bad. So you can easily do some micro pivots without having to reinvent the wheel. So it's going to save you a lot of time and energy. And if you're paying attention to it, because again, what you focus on expands, right? If you're just looking at your numbers every quarter, that is far too long. You have already got some trends and some habits in those numbers that may be shifting in the wrong direction for you. And it's going to take a whole another 3-4 months to rectify that. So you really got to get into a nice habit. So for me, when I was building my company from zero, I was looking at my numbers daily because again,
I was curious if you were to say that because I'm kind of obsessed with them. And my husband's like, Holly, stop. You don't have to look at it every day.
Because you want to be obsessed. Because again, what you focus on expands. And then that is actually going to create a really great habit with which whenever you bring on a team member or whenever you hire someone for a specific project, you now know how to lead your company and those decisions and making sure you're not leaking any money or time or energy. So when you're building daily, and this is not, I really, really want women to hear this. Please don't delegate that out to someone else because you believe a story of you're not good with numbers, I suck at numbers, etc. That may be the case, but you still need to have an intelligent view of what is going on in the workings of your business. And that lives in your data. Data is just information. So you're just looking at information, just like you read a book or listen to a podcast. This is actual information that affects your livelihood, your families, and those that you bring on. So when I first started daily, and then I had people on my team that were directly serving the client. So then I would evaluate their metrics daily. And I would help move them in the direction of their goals that they wanted. And then also how I wanted them to treat the clients and how I wanted my brand and my business to operate. And those, what I call that is you are able to micro pivot in ways that help both you and your team become really efficient. And then by default, you're creating systems and processes that you will be able to then delegate and put on paper for that next team member or hiring so that you then maintain consistency and now you're optimizing your business over time. And then, so there was just a few key metrics I would track daily. Then monthly would be a little bit more robust. And I would probably, when I first started out, would be bi-monthly as well. So halfway through the month. And then monthly, I would do a little bit more of a robust analytics on it. And then, of course, quarterly, see how I'm trending and forecasting for the year. And then from that. But what I ended up doing when I had systems that were really humming along, that there wasn't much change to it, it would be weekly and still monthly. So those are non-negotiables. Even if you're making 7 figures, if you've got the cash is flowing every day, like all that kind of stuff. And then you've got to remember, if you are now going to launch something new or have a new offering, again, now you've got to go back to checking it daily, checking it weekly, bi-weekly, etc., because you're launching something new. So you need to understand where you need to pivot and how that energy needs to drive there.
Yeah, I love that. Can you give us an example of what a micro pivot might look like? And the reason why I'm asking this is because a lot of times I have clients who will look at their numbers or look at their scorecard and they're like, well, it's not moving. It's not doing what I want it to do. Or maybe it's not moving in a good direction. And so they get nervous about it. And so they just drop the habit of checking the data. And I love what you said about data is data. Like I always say, data doesn't have feelings. Facts doesn't have feelings.
Yeah.
So use it to your advantage. So I would love an example of maybe what a micro pivot might look like.
So a micro pivot looks like let's say, for instance, you're launching an offer or service or something brand new. So you want to be tracking your metrics. So your analytics, wherever you're launching that, whatever your marketing budget is, and I want you to start small too.
Mm-hmm.
So don't start with the whole cart. Do a little bit at a time because that's easier to maintain and manage.
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, if you're doing that, then I would focus on, first of all, you need your cost of goods. You can't price appropriately. You can't launch anything until you actually know your baseline, because then you can actually price it for margins, etc. So if you're not moving in the direction that you want, your data will tell you that. There's no mystery to that. You may make up a story in your head that I feel this, I feel that. Your data is going to give you that information, which is exactly like, where is that revenue coming from? Why is it coming in? Where is it coming in? How is it coming in? And then where is it going?
Mm-hmm.
So if you are tracking these things from the front and the back, your micro pivots will live in the in between. Mm-hmm. So you're seeing, okay, these things are doing great, but then the back end there isn't. So then you got to figure out where that is going. And that also lives in your cost of goods. So those are actual where you can start seeing micro pivots. And micro pivots, if you want to put a dollar amount to it, are like $70 here, $80 there. Like, oh, I can tweak this. I can optimize this. Like, this isn't really working, or this software is not integrating with this over here. I'm missing some clients. I'm missing some follow-ups. Some things are slipping through the cracks. If you're not paying attention to your data, you can address those and then make those micro pivots. Mm-hmm. But you have to know what is missing in order to be able to do the micro pivots. So that is, I see a lot in systems not talking to each other. Mm-hmm. So then you have to figure out what that looks like. Okay, my ads in this area are not landing. Okay, let's dig a little bit deeper on why that is. There's analytics attached to that. So again, you would look at that. And then a lot of times nowadays, it's a keyword that you switch, or you're testing two things at the same time. So those are micro pivots. It's literally saying the same thing, different words, different keywords. And those are the micro pivots that you will be able to see in your data. And then you can be like, you're going to change out this one word, this one sentence, this one picture. You're going to shift it from this platform to this platform. So those are all micro pivots. But then you're able to kind of shift and move it how you want so that you are getting the traction that you need. In micro pivots nowadays, if you're an online entrepreneur, is in your messaging. Mm-hmm. So you're literally tweaking a little bit, or maybe you're not saying it enough, or whatever that looks like. You need to be testing that every single day. That's a part of your data. That's a part of your job being an entrepreneur. So then those things, you're just collecting data, collecting information, and then you're able to make those pivots as you're seeing things come in and out and the reactions to it.
Yeah, I think these are really good examples. One of the things that came to mind is we're running ads right now. We have 2 funnels going, which is like a big undertaking. And one is doing okay, and one is just like not doing great. And so we're like going into the data and we're like, okay, this open rate is this and this click rate is this. Like, let's change this subject line and let's do this. And I think as an entrepreneur, it's hard because you immediately go to, oh, the offer sucks. I have to create something new. But I don't think that's the case in this area. But also, it's like there's these little things that we could do behind the scenes that I hope over time will make a difference. And I think looking at the data is something that a lot of people probably skip.
Yeah. And there's a lot of fear to that. There's a lot of stories. And then that's one of the reasons why I exited my company, which was a brick and mortar. And now I'm serving that online woman entrepreneur, because there is so much fear around numbers and there's a lot of story around that. And I really want to empower women to just simplify it and demystify it, that you can have the success that you'd like and you have more control and more capability than you think. Mm-hmm. And all of that just lives in the data. And then it just look at it in a few simple ways. It doesn't have to be this robust corporate KPI spreadsheet. No, start where you're at and then optimize from there. So that's 3 to 5 metrics that you're looking at. And then also you do need to have a measure of patience. Your data will help you that. Because when you're running ads and you're doing things like that, if you are pulling something 3 months or less, you're just throwing money out the window.
Mhm.
You need to know where there needs to sit and live some time so that you can start getting trends in your data. Because even in my first business, I never gave raises, promotions, or shifted anything in my business less than 2 quarters.
Okay.
So because you got to start seeing a pattern of
Mhm.
data. And there are seasons to consumers buying and slowing down and different things like that. So you do need to take that into consideration in addition to your own personal seasons.
Mhm.
So, and that lives with a measure of data. So 3 months, 6 months, those sorts of things. And it's the same concept if you're working with someone and you've got them project based, understand that it's going to take a measure of time to get some of those results. Like I'm never going to promise you a $10,000 month in 30 days or 60 days. No, that's unrealistic because ultimately I want this to be sustainable as well. And so do you as an entrepreneur. You really want to know how to gradually build without having to burn everything down and start over. Because again, it isn't the offer. It's never the offer. You have value, you have expertise. It all lives in how you're messaging it, who's seeing it, that visibility. Are you really being as consistent as you want to be? And your data will tell you that. And just making a practice of looking at it helps take away some of that fear because a lot of that is just uncertainty. You feel like you're not in control of your business because things are happening around you. Well, you are in control of it. So I work with a lot of women who feel stuck, but they are capable. So it's just work with that mentor or that business person or that someone who is an expert in that area that you want, and then borrow that confidence from them. They're kind of your safety net as you kind of work through some of the things that you need to do to gain that confidence and that ability in driving your company. It doesn't mean that you're taking on more. It actually helps you take on less and be more efficient.
Yeah. So we're talking about the success hangover and ultimately getting to know your data, which I think builds confidence and helps you make decisions. One of the things that I've seen, and I think you've seen as well, is like once you hit 100K or whatever that goal is, you tend to hit a wall and everyone talks about it. At least I've heard it talked about before. Why do you think that is? And what do you think the next step is in that scenario?
So, I mean, I would imagine when because everyone has that goal to get up to that. And there's a lot of people that help you kind of get you started and get you rolling. And when you feel like you are hitting a wall at 100K or 200K or 300K or whatever, then usually that 100K to 500K.
Yeah.
That means if you feel like you've hit a wall, in all honesty, that means that you have not really paid attention to your data. Your business has just been flowing and you've just been riding the wave and just doing all the things. And now you need to get strategic. So when you feel like you're hitting a wall, that means there's something that's misaligned. And guess where that lives? In your data. Not in your heart, not in your mind, not in your gut, but in your data. There can be a combination of both. But you have to figure out what actually got you there. And then what needs to change or be added in order to reach that next level. And it's the same concept when I had my first business. What it took me to get to 500K was much different than what got me to 1 million consistently year after year. You have to not only know where your baseline is, but then you have to know how to go past it. So if you can't reach past that, if you're not so much that visionary or that innovative or that imaginative type person, that idea person, then partner with someone who can help you give different perspective. And then also if you are a visionary and you're stuck towards a wall, then you need someone who's going to integrate, who's going to help you follow through, who's going to help you pick what is the next best step. So when you reach that level, what I see people getting stuck is, or misaligned, is then they're like, okay, now I can hire, but they don't know who they're hiring or for what, or for how long, or even how to classify them correctly as an employee or contractor, whatever. So it's either not asking for help, realizing, hey, I have done an amazing job reaching this level. I have done all I can do in my vessel. Now I need to get another perspective so that can help me reach a different level. And that could look like a VA, could look like someone very, very specific to what your opposite skill set is, because your skill set got you there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So then you have to be, not only do you have to be self-aware of your skill set and what exactly that was, but then what am I missing? And you actually have to be like, what am I missing? Because then when you know what is missing, you know your next step, and then you know your next hire. So that it's very specific and strategic. It's not just a general admin who's going to clear my inbox. No, an AI can do that, right? You want to be strategic and very focused on what your next best step is.
Yeah, I love this. I mean, hopefully if you're listening, you're catching a theme, and that also looking at your numbers shouldn't be scary. It should be inspiring, I think, because it gives you so many clues about what the right next step is. And I do love the concept of like micro pivots, or like I call them baby steps. Like what's the first like little baby step you can take and see how it adds up. Before we wrap up, I want to ask just a couple of rapid fire questions. And I'm curious, what is a tool that you love that helps you sort of analyze your data or stay organized or make decisions? Like what's something that comes top of mind when you think about that?
So for me, it is just like calendar. So I've got a calendar, and then it talks to everything else. So I don't have to worry about things slipping through the cracks or being overbooked or double booked or any of that. I rely on the systems that I have to manage my calendar. I check in with that, and then also utilize the tools that I have in my emails, whether that's a scheduled email or a specific automatic response. So I do look for ways that I don't have to just be busy, and that I'm actually looking at the key areas that I need to, and then I rely on the systems to do the rest. So starting there, and then once you have a little bit more data, you need to be having kind of like a one spreadsheet. So like a numbers, something with a chart in it. And then you've just got 3 to 5 metrics that you're just kind of inputting every month, or you've got systems that talk with it and put that in there as well. So those are just some simple, basic things that work really well to start.
Yeah, I love that. How are you using AI right now?
AI, I love AI. I believe it's a useful tool. And I actually used it many, many years ago in my business when it was first coming out. So for me, I'm a manifesting generator. So I know about having all the tabs open and all the ideas and all of those things. But then I also am interested in how to actually take action on that. So AI, I'm using ChatGPT, and I use that just for ideation, creation, a little to help me be more succinct, more direct. I use it to create PDFs and freebies and things of that nature. So I do, and I usually have it humming in the background too. So like whenever an idea pops up or something like that, like we all have that, right? I'll pop into ChatGPT, see what pops out and be like, do I like that? Does it hit? Making sure, and I'm using it. I've used it for years. So I have it trained, I have it in my voice and all those different things. So it is a function of how often you use it. So that's a huge one for me. And then I also just use AI in creating some of my trainings aesthetically and things of that nature, because I'm not too interested in, I'm not a branding person or necessarily an aesthetic person. I'm just like, here's the title, blah, blah, blah. So like I use AI to help me be a little bit more creative and aesthetic in some of my presentations and things like that to make it fun.
Yeah, so good. I think it's just such a fun question to ask because it seems to be changing so quickly. I mean, I think we could talk about this topic all day long, but I know you have some really great resources for our audience. So I would love for you to share where they can connect with you, learn more, and give some more information about how to really optimize their data.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm most active on Instagram. So it's OPS and Growth Mentor, Michelle Ghassemi. And that's where you're going to find all my free monthly trainings. Right now, I'm doing 5 metrics that build a 7-figure brand, or 5 metrics that may stand between you and 7 figures. And just really paying that forward. I actually taught it in a private community, and the response was overwhelming. Just like, we've never been taught this. Why have we not been taught this? So now I'm taking it public and doing a free training that just kind of pays it forward and demystifies and just kind of gives you a snapshot of the health of your business. So those links to register, those are always current and up to date on my Instagram, Ops and Growth Mentor. And then I also offer free 30-minute biz assessment calls for those that just want to dive in or maybe look at a specific thing. And then I also have mentorship. So if you are looking for one-to-one mentorship or some done for you services, I have those available. And then all of those informational posts are on my Instagram. So how to work with me, who I'm for, how I lead, all those different things are there. So, and then drop in my DMs because it's me who's actually chatting with you.
Yeah, I love this. I mean, I think it's so cool that you offer the business audits and the assessments and the monthly workshop. So everyone should go check it out. We'll put everything in the show notes. And thank you so much, Michelle.
Yes, it was such a pleasure to be here.